Hello, friends, and welcome into the Cowboys Report. Some major Cowboys news has dropped today. Some good, some not so good. Let's begin, though, with the positive one. That is around Dak Prescott. A significant update here as practice gets ready to undergo today for the Cowboys. Dak is set to do 7-on-7 team drills at practice. That is very noteworthy relative to what Dak has been doing so far this training camp since his shoulder strain he suffered early on. This will be the first team drills beyond just throwing and warming up that Dak has done since he suffered that throwing shoulder strain. This is significant progress for Dak Prescott. Frankly, folks, this is pretty big news as it relates to Dak and his injury. This is a very clear and obvious sign that Dak is on track for Week 1. The ramp-up process, the slow and steady growth to avoid making this injury worse, this is a very good sign from that area. This means that Dak is heading towards being good to go for Week 1, that he'll continue to ramp up his progress, and barring a setback, which has not occurred so far, another obvious indication that the Cowboys have actually been telling the truth lately, that Dak will be good to go in time for Week 1. What I'm saying, guys, is this. This should make you feel better about Dak Prescott. This injury update is a very good one. Dak returning to team activities when Mike McCarthy had said even just a day ago he wasn't sure, maybe it was 2 days ago, whatever it was, that he wasn't sure if Dak was going to be involved in any team activity stuff. Now today he's got the all clear. That's a very good step in the right direction for Dak Prescott. And if you were worried about Dak, which I understand he is the franchise quarterback after all, you should probably lower that panic meter just a little bit. With that in mind, what is your new panic level for Dak Prescott? I want you guys to rate it here on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being you're not concerned at all. You feel great. Dak's going to win MVP this year. 10 being you're still in full-fledged meltdown mode. I think I'm back down to that 3 level, getting closer to a 2 as far as I'm concerned, but we're a show for the people. So get your votes in. This question is the pinned comment on today's video. So get the ad break here on YouTube, scroll on down there, and get your votes in. Now time for the not-so-good news, of which there is quite a bit to run through here. First up, bad news for Rico Dowdle. His season is over. The Cowboys, kind of out of the blue, have placed Dowdle on injured reserve. The timing of this means that Dowdle's second season is now over. In order to return from IR, players have to make it through 1 day of the initial 53-man roster. They had to be on the roster at 1 p.m. Eastern, or 4 p.m. Eastern on September 1st, That is not the case. Dowdle's season, much like Sewo Olonilua, ends earlier than expected. This does leave the Cowboys a bit thin at the running back position. Yes, you've got Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard. Might help Nick Ralston's chances of making the 53-man roster. The Cowboys might keep an eye out now for another option in terms of a third running back in free agency or the trade market. Maybe Jaquan Hardy, the Hard Knocks star, quote-unquote, I'll put in there. Maybe he ends up making the roster. So this does leave the Cowboys a bit thinner. I had thought, even just a couple weeks ago, Dowdle and Olonilua might have been able to make this roster. Not the case. They have been placed now on IR as the Cowboys get thinner and thinner as it relates to their active roster, because 2 more players have now gone on the COVID-19 list for Dallas. Connor Williams, the first one we'll discuss here as the list grows, and this likely means Williams will not play in the preseason game, but in theory should be back in time for Week 1. Hopefully no symptoms. We don't know that. We saw how it impacted Cam Newton last year. Was not the same after he came back from COVID. So hopefully he ends up being just fine. He's been placed on the COVID list. He did test positive. He'll be out for the Jags game in the preseason. Means more work for Connor McGovern potentially, and probably Isaac Alarcon as well. Next up is Damontae Kazee, as he had been away from the team on Tuesday. That they were awaiting test results. His have come back positive. This leaves the Cowboys very thin at the safety position. And now they have 6 players on the reserve list. Last season, before there was a vaccine. The Cowboys placed just 6 players on that COVID list. They've now got 6 plus a coach on that situation right now. Dan Quinn, Carlos Watkins, that started it all back on Saturday night when Quinn and Watkins were sent home because they weren't feeling well, and they ended up testing positive. Now CeeDee Lamb has tested positive. 4 others also on this reserve list. There have been, of the 6 players, 4 have tested positive. Israel Mukuamu, I don't believe, is one of those because he's not fully out of the timing to be counted as a vaccinated player because of his timing there. Malik Hooker, Damontae, Kazee, Connor Williams, CeeDee Lamb, Watkins have all been, according to various reports, they were vaccinated, or at least they tested positive, which means there's one guy out there who the initial media reports weren't exactly accurate when they said they were vaccinated. Maybe Malik Hooker's timing isn't quite right from the second shot. He had the first shot back when he had initially signed. I'm not sure on that front. Either way, the goal here is hope these guys don't have any major symptoms, they get healthy, and they're able to make an impact for you this season on the field. Now, if you're trying to make some money betting on sports this year, do it with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. Head over to chatsports.com/bet, the link you see right there, bottom of your screen, and use the promo code Cowboys125. That gets you a 125% deposit bonus. So let's say you want to bet on the Cowboys to win the NFC East, and you want to bet on Dak Prescott to win MVP and comeback player of the year, and you want to bet on week 1. You can put down like $5 or $10 on each of those bets, and because you're getting a 125% deposit bonus, you've still got a ton of money left over. So make sure you use our URL, chatsports.com/bet, that's the website address, and the promo code Cowboys125 to get the 125% deposit bonus when you put down at least $100. That's plenty of money to bet with and win with this year betting on football. All right, more injury notes here. I did want to provide an update here briefly on Donovan Wilson. The thin safety room continues for Dallas, as it's not a great group that we'll see out there against the Jags. Wilson dealing with a sore groin. The Cowboys say it's minor. It's a meaningless preseason game. I don't know why the Cowboys would bother playing Donovan Wilson in this upcoming game against the Jags. I assume he's going to be out. That leaves the Cowboys, as I mentioned, almost precariously thin at the safety spot for this final preseason game, and we'll leave them with some tricky decisions to make for the final 53-man roster cuts when those get done next Tuesday, and the reserve list that adds in another layer of complexity there as it relates to COVID. Donovan Wilson, Damontae Kazee, Malik Hooker, Israel Mukuamu will not play against the Jags. Timing doesn't make any sense. I'd be stunned. Maybe Mukuamu gets back, but that seems very unlikely. Jerron Kearse, Darian Thompson, Stephen Parker, and Tyler Coyle then are the 4 safeties. And given that Jerron Kearse, I think, will make this team, I wonder if we'll just see a lot of Thompson, Parker, and Coyle in this game against the Jags. We'll find out for sure during the game, which we will be live for. If you guys want to have some fun in that watch party, we'll drink some beers. Maybe I'll slap producer Jeremy again. Who knows? Hit that big red button and subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, all you have to do is click that button. That way you won't miss any of our videos here on the Dallas Cowboys Report, which, by the way, do come out every single day. All right, working our way through some more bad injury news here. Chauncey Golston, the 3rd-round rookie out of Iowa, has not practiced at all in training camp. And that's always been a bit of a surprise that, hey, Golston's been on the PUP list. Well, the reasoning is because of a hamstring issue. Now, ESPN's Todd Archer reported today, kind of buried in amidst all the other news, that Golston is expected to open the season on the PUP list. Now, that would make him miss the first 6 weeks of the season and would then allow him to return after that time frame, if at all, this season. But that is a significant potential loss for the Cowboys. I liked Golston a bit coming out of Iowa, a bit early where he was drafted, but not that big of a reach. And I thought he had a nice high floor, but the hamstring issue has put him behind the 8 ball for the Cowboys at the defensive end position. Meanwhile, Trysten Hill is also expected, as has been the case for quite a while now, to open the year on the PUP list. He's coming off a torn ACL. He showed more promise in 2020, but is now on his third defensive coordinator in as many years. He is very much playing catch-up. Hill and Golston being set to start the year on the PUP list has major impact as it relates to the Cowboys' 53-man roster. Hill will not have to be carried through, so you can cross him off your initial list. Neville Gallimore, however, will be carried through that 53-man roster, then likely placed on IR as he deals with his own injury problems. So I think Gallimore to start, but then Carlos Watkins, Brent Urban, Osa Odigizua, Quinton Bahana, and I think Justin Hamilton, too, are going to be your 5 players on your roster for week 1 at defensive tackle. Maybe they explore some practice squad options, if they look at who gets cut, or maybe some trade candidates, but it's a short-term thing with Gallimore set to return. I think Dallas might try to survive with Watkins, Urban, Osa, Bohanna, and Justin Hamilton. As for defensive end, a bit more complicated here. Obviously, DeMarcus Lawrence, Randy Gregory are roster locks. I think you'll see Urban get some 5 technique work in more 3-4 fronts, more true 3-4 fronts. But with Chauncey Golston beginning the year on the PUP list, Terrell Basham also a bit banged up. If you put Golston on the PUP list, I think that means your defensive ends should be Tank Lawrence, Randy Gregory. I still think Terrell Basham gets carried through to start, Dorrance Armstrong, and with Golston on the PUP list, that would benefit somebody like Bradley and who I do think makes that 53-man roster now. Now, assuming both these players get back, Trysten Hill and Chauncey Golston, who ends up making the bigger impact? Type TH for Trysten Hill or type CG for Chauncey Golston. Get your votes in for me right now in the comments section. Let's talk now Greg Zuerlein. We started with the good Dak Prescott as we end with the good kicker news here. Zuerlein has been activated from that physically unable to perform list. A very clear sign he's good to go for week 1, and he will play against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, that wasn't a big surprise given that the team chose to move on from their other kickers. Hunter Nicewander was an IR stash as he's got a back issue. And then they also waived Liam Hairulahu, who was here for under a week to be the emergency kicker. So your special teams unit are set in stone, at least as it relates to your kicker, punter, and long snapper. Greg Zuerlein, your kicker. Brian Anger, your punter. Jake McQuaid ends up being your long snapper, and that's your core 3 special teams units for the Dallas Cowboys.